On March 31, 2006, a 27-year-old medical student from Pickerington walked into a crowded bar in Columbus, Ohio. He was captured on camera entering the building, but he was never seen leaving. And that was the last time anybody saw him ever. I'm Frank, and let's begin. Pickerington, Ohio, in the late 70s, was a growing suburb of Columbus, filled with young families looking for a quiet life, safe streets, and neighbors who knew each other by name. And this is where Brian Shaffer was born on February 11, 1979. Growing up in that quiet suburb, Brian was the older of two sons, born to Randy and Renee Shaffer. Those who knew him back then described him as a bright and motivated kid. He did well in school and stayed close to home for college, attending Ohio State University. By 2003, Brian had earned his degree in microbiology, but he wasn't done with the books just yet. In 2004, he started his studies at the Ohio State University College of Medicine. Being a medical student is a grueling path, but those close to him say Brian was handling the pressure well. He was tall, athletic, and friends remember that he almost always had a smile that made people feel at ease. He also had a creative side and often told his friends that his real dream was to start a band. He was a huge fan of Jimmy Buffett and loved the idea of living a relaxed, tropical life. In his personal life, things were looking bright. He was dating a fellow medical student named Alexis Wagner. They were a serious couple, and everyone around them expected a proposal was coming soon. They had even planned a trip to Miami for the beginning of April 2006. His family was almost certain Brian would pop the question during that vacation. However, the weeks leading up to that trip were heavy. In March 2006, Brian's mother Renee passed away from cancer. It was a massive blow. Friends say Brian was incredibly close to her. And although he tried to keep a brave face to stay focused on his exams, the grief was visible to those who knew him best. On Friday, March 31, classes finally ended for spring break. To celebrate the end of a hard semester and the start of the holiday, Brian went out for a steak dinner with his father, Randy, who later noted that Brian looked exhausted from pulling all-nighters to study, but he didn't try to stop his son from going out with his friends later that night. Around 9 p.m. that day, Brian met up with his friend William Clint Florence at a bar called the Ugly Tuna Saloon. It was located in the South Campus Gateway Complex, a popular spot for students. About an hour later, Brian called Alexis. She was back in her hometown of Toledo, visiting family before their Miami trip. They talked for a bit, and she later said everything seemed normal. Brian and Clint decided to go bar hopping. They hit several spots around the Arena District in the short north. At every stop, they had a shot of hard liquor. Eventually, they met up with a friend of Clint's named Meredith Reed. She gave them a ride back to the Ugly Tuna Saloon for one last round before the night ended. Security footage showed the three of them going up the escalator to the bar at 1:15 a.m. About 45 minutes later, Brian was seen on camera again. He was standing outside the main entrance of the bar, talking to two young women. The footage shows him saying goodbye to the women and walking back toward the bar, moving out of the camera's view. At 2 a.m., when the bar began to close, Clint and Meredith waited outside for Brian. The crowd poured out, but Brian wasn't among them. They called his phone repeatedly, but it went straight to voicemail. Thinking he might have just walked home to his apartment on King Avenue without telling them, they eventually left. The next morning, the concern started to grow. Brian didn't answer calls from his father or Alexis. On Monday, April 3, Brian missed the flight to Miami. That was a moment everyone knew something was very wrong. He was officially reported missing to the Columbus police. The Columbus police expanded the search to 3 other nearby bars, but their security footage showed no trace of him. Officers and search dogs inspected the streets, dumpsters, and waste containers. Flyers were distributed featuring Brian's photo, his Pearl Jam Alive tattoo, and the distinctive fleck in his iris. The city even allowed police to search the Columbus sewer system, but they found no evidence. At Brian's apartment on King Avenue, his car was still parked outside, and nothing inside appeared to have been disturbed. The police questioned everyone who was with Brian that night. While Meredith Reed and Brian's father passed polygraph tests, Clint Florence refused to take one. His lawyer stated that Clint had already provided all the information he had. But the refusal caused significant tension with the Shaffer family. As the search continued, Brian's girlfriend, Alexis, called his phone every night. Usually, it went to voicemail. But one night in September, the phone rang 3 times. Singular Wireless suggested it was just a computer glitch. But a ping was detected from a cell tower in Hilliard, 14 miles northwest of Columbus. But ultimately, it led to a dead end. Even Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam asked for tips during a concert in Cincinnati, but no useful information followed. Brian's father, Randy Shaffer, continued to search for his son daily. He even consulted a psychic who claimed Brian was in the water near a bridge, leading Randy and his other son Derek to spend their free time searching the Olentangy River. This search also turned up nothing. In September 2008, 2 years after Brian disappeared, Randy Shaffer was clearing debris in his yard when a branch blew off from a nearby tree and fatally struck him. He died without finding any answers about his son's disappearance. After Randy's death, a signature in an online condolence book read, "To Dad, love Brian, U.S. Virgin Islands." For a moment, there was a spark of hope that Brian had run away to a tropical paradise. But the police tracked the post to a public computer in Columbus. It was ultimately deemed nothing more than a heartless hoax. By 2014, the Columbus police was still receiving at least 2 tips a month on the case via the local Crime Stoppers hotline, though none had proven useful. One of the original investigators, Andre Edwards, told Columbus Monthly that after an extensive review of the camera footage from the night Brian disappeared, he could say with 100% certainty that Shaffer did not leave via the escalator. At that time, the Columbus police admitted they had 3 internal theories about the case, but they've never discussed them publicly, citing the fact that it remains an open investigation. In 2019, an image of a homeless man in Tijuana, Mexico, who bore a resemblance to Shaffer, began circulating online. By 2020, the photo was sent to the FBI, and after a thorough facial recognition analysis, they officially ruled out Shaffer as the identity of the man. In March 2021, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation released an age-progressed photo showing what Brian Shaffer might look like at age 42. nearly 15 years after his disappearance. Today, Brian Shaffer is still missing. The Ugly Tuna Saloon has since closed down. Boxes of evidence still sit in the Columbus Police Department, along with Brian's DNA in national databases, with the hope that modern forensics will one day solve the mystery. And as for Brian's family, his brother Derek is the only one left. He still holds on to the hope that one day he will find out what happened to his brother after he walked off camera that April night. I truly hope that his family gets some closure, regardless of whether his disappearance was voluntary or not. For now, the case remains an open mystery. I'm Frank, and I'll see you again. Goodbye for now.